We have been asked what separates a good project manager from a great one. Is it their ability to manage timelines and budgets, or their capacity to understand, motivate, and connect with people on an emotional level? This episode actually is to answer this question with our esteemed guest. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned.
Welcome, listeners. Today we are delighted to bring you another inspiring episode of Tahaddi, the podcast dedicated to helping you enhance your management skills and navigate your career journey. Your host, Sameh Makky, your go-to expert in project management and career coaching. Every Wednesday, we invite esteemed guests to join us and share valuable insights from their respective industries. They will provide unique perspectives and practical advice, leaving us all with a nugget of wisdom to apply in our personal and professional lives. Newcomers to our show, don't forget to hit the subscribe button to ensure you stay updated with every new release. Now, let's kick off today's engaging discussion. Stay tuned.
Hello and most welcome to our weekly show once again. In project management, technical expertise may set the stage, but it's emotional intelligence that determines the show succeeds or fails. There is an amazing quote by Daniel Goleman. He was saying, what really matters for success, character, happiness, and lifelong achievements is a definite set of emotional skills. And for so, we are discussing today emotional intelligence. However, we are discussing it from the perspective and the umbrella of the project management with our esteemed guest. Our first guest describes herself as a rebel with purpose, as she wrote on her profile. She is an expert in communication and international relations and the founder of Thrive with EQ. Her mission is to build an emotionally intelligent and resilient society by fostering emotional firewalls, resilience, and well-being in the digital age. Welcome to the show, Nadia Al-Fertazi. Nadia, how are you today?
I'm very well. And the reason why I use rebel with purpose is because my son is a rebel without purpose. He just wants to rebel because of being a rebel.
It's great to know what is the reason and what is the source behind the quote, you know?
Well, it is actually, I think we need more disruption in order to evolve with
That's
the
right.
challenges we are facing, which we are doing here, what we did together with Alexandra and Bruno in Riyadh.
Agree. Thank you so much for joining us today. Our second guest tonight is a renowned thought leader in project management, celebrated for transforming teams through empathy and effective communication. He is the founder and CEO of Mantigora, an organization dedicated to making the world a better place by empowering people and delivering meaningful impact. Please welcome Bruno Morgante. Bruno, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Sameh. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to meet again Nadia and Alexandra after the beautiful event we had in Riyadh at the Global Project Management Forum. Thank you really for having us. I think we are going to have a great conversation tonight.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Joining us next, last but not least, is the co-founder and CEO of Soft Skills Lab and a professor of negotiation at several universities. She helps people master a conscious approach to communication, enabling them to effectively manage and build relationships. Known for her ability to resolve conflicts and inspire collaboration under pressure. Welcome to the show, Alexandra Klimenko. Alexandra.
Hello, everyone. So excited to be back. Really want to have a proper conversation, like to prolong the conversation we started in Saudi Arabia. And I would love to get some insights to people who are listening to us. I hope we have something great today.
Thank you so much. Really, thank you so much. Whether you are tuning in live or catching the replay, thank you for making time to join this space where ideas, stories, and the growth come together. Please, if you have any question or inquiries, you can drop it in the chat box and we will discuss it with our esteemed guest today. Dears, I would like, before starting actually and dive deep into our topic today, I feel the chemistry and the harmony between you. What is the secret what is the secret actually behind forming this team?
Authenticity. I think we were real with each other from the beginning. And I think we are all entrepreneurs, and we just connected by being ourselves.
Amazing. Bruno,
I
what do you
agree.
think? What is the secret?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It is about, well, probably I would add everything Nadia said is correct. I agree with that. I think there is also maybe another element. We all know about emotional intelligence
Wow.
quite a bit, and we have used it for many years. And I think that helps to create this beautiful chemistry.
Amazing.
It's also I think we can actually take it as a testimony of how important it is.
That's awesome. Alexandra, do you think that you will have many events together and
I
gathering
really
again?
hope so. Because like actually when we first started, I was like, we need to make this work in order to be able to show through what the fact that we're working together, that it's possible to get very different people together. And I agree that at the end we ended up not being so different. We're like very, very much authentically the same in some aspects at least.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Alexandra. I would like to thank Engineer Muhammad Zuhair, who joined us right now. Thank you so much for joining and your time. If you joined us at any time, you can leave your name and the place actually you are attending the session from, and any question and inquiries coming in your mind. Allow me to start with Nadia. Since we had a small discussion while we were preparing for the discussion regarding the definition of emotional intelligence, and we had some not confusion but exchanging the expression of emotional intelligence between EI and the EQ. Nadia, can you try to define it, and as well also what is the difference between EI and the EQ?
Yes.
Exchanging the expression of emotional intelligence between EI and the EQ. Nadia, can you try to define it, and as well also what is the difference between EI and the EQ?
Yes. Okay, so I will start now. There is an echo, by the way, yeah?
Yes, there is an echo, I think. Let me check my mic again.
Actually, I think it was my echo because I tried to start the translation in one of the it went poorly, so I ended it. Sorry, guys.
That's fine, no problem at all.
It was a testing of a theory that like went successfully with the failure of a theory.
This is a tolerance we discussed it before the live. Yes.
So let me start first with an analogy. I like using analogy before I start into the conceptual definition and then what the perceived differences between EI and EQ. Imagine you're driving a car and you're heading towards a destination, right? Your vision is the end of your project, the end project where you actually achieve all your milestones. And as you're driving in the car, you have your toddlers, 2-3 years old, throwing a lot of tantrums. If you put them in the trunk, they're going to suffocate. So you can't do that. If you let them drive your wheel, your car, you're never going to attain your project, your vision. So you have to keep them in the back of your car so you can manage them. Now imagine if your toddlers are your emotions, right? And when we start a project, when we start any goal in life, everyone is motivated and excited. Everyone understands the vision. But as you drive, you will run out of fuel. You'll have to tank. And if you wait until you're empty to tank, then the toddlers are going to be more annoying and you're going to be less focused. You're going to have roadblocks. You have to take another exit or another way to get to where you are. So emotions help us manage our immediate challenges. And when we think about it from a methodological perspective, a lot of, up until the 50s, there was a lot of recognition given to our cognitive intelligence, right? How we do strategic planning, analysis, and long-term thinking. Not so much emotional intelligence. So you had the first one was Peter Salovey, who also started the Emotional Intelligence Center in Yale University. Then you had Daniel Goleman, who became very popular in the 90s. And then there's this other model, which is the EQI 2.0 model, which is more tailored to the workplace. So emotional intelligence EI is the abbreviation of emotional intelligence. Emotional quotient is how you measure emotional intelligence.
Wow.
That is the actual difference. But in essence, people are using it interchangeably. I
That's
named
right.
my company Thrive with EQ because Thrive with EI is very difficult to, it doesn't sound sexy. Thrive with EI, right? But Thrive with EQ is a much better name. So, and the model I work with also is EQ. But basically, it is emotional quotient, like your intelligence quotient is what measures your emotional intelligence. And sometimes people get confused. Well, why EI is because if you're very rigid in your thinking, then you want to use the exact abbreviation of the word, and the E is for the emotional, and the I is for intelligence.
That's right.
Exactly, and but it is actually emotional quotient, but they're used interchangeably. So that is the mystery of it all, and we are obviously going to refer here to EI just for the ease of purpose.
What I understood from you right now, that this EI has some tools and some techniques or some concepts as well, and the EQ also has some different. That means when we teach people, that means we have to concentrate on every part separately. That's right.
So emotional quotient you can assess. So when you run emotional quotient assessments, you can assess leadership, you can assess group dynamics, you can assess individual for every specific marker. And this is a scientifically validated model. When we talk about emotional intelligence, these are more strategies, right? To enhance someone's emotional quotient, which can differ based on it. It is not static. It can be developed by anyone at any age. So first you have a snapshot that gives you an idea. It doesn't give you the blueprint. And then you work with people who are licensed in emotional intelligence assessments to develop it according to your specific challenges. And in this case, according to your specific project outcomes.
Awesome. I'd like to thank also Mr. Muhammad Nasruddin, Mr. Ahmed Nasri, Engineer Firas Muhammad. Thank you for joining us today. Type. I will go to Bruno, and I will tell him something we always hear when we are talking about soft skills and especially communication, and we are telling that under the umbrella of communication, one big part coming the emotional intelligence. How do you see, Bruno, emotional intelligence, if we excel it and master it, how it will affect the communication and keep the team more cohesive?
Well, Sameh, this one is one of my favorite topics, and one that I do cover in one of my keynotes. I like to say that emotional intelligence is like putting together, is like linking together clear communication and human connections. And if I try to go there step by step, definitely first you need to start at the foundational level. The foundation of everything. It's a very specific behavior, something that we all know, but very often we do not apply, which is listening. And it is listening to understand, not to reply, not to respond. So listening as a foundational element of communication, and you know it, if you do not do it well, you are not going to communicate well. That is very clear. So when you listen properly, what you trigger is empathy, which is one of the elements of emotional intelligence, one of the mostly known, I would say. Now, once you have listened, and you have understood, you definitely will be in a position to be clear in what you say, in your communication. My piece of advice here is really to try to say the things in the way they are. Like not just don't overcomplicate things. Actually, do the opposite. Make complex topics easy to understand for everyone. And especially when I say for everyone, I mean you will deal with people in different places, in different levels of the organization, different locations. So adapt your communication style to them. Speak their language. Create this connection. Now, when you do these two steps, so you have the listening, you have the clear communication, well, the next step is simply to repeat. So to do this consistently and be transparent when you do it, with emotional balance and, of course, with empathy. And that helps you to create something that a lot of people calls a safe place. I like to call it an healthy environment. I have it in a lot of what I do. So creating this healthy environment where trust starts to emerge, where people feel safe and to talk, to express their views, their emotions, and this is what the elements, the behaviors that you need to put in place to bring that together. Which, by the way, for all of those listening that are in a team leadership position, in a project leadership position, this is how you start building a team. A group of people that trust each other, a group of people that work together to achieve something great. And you can clearly see this link between emotional intelligence and the clear communication and the human connection.
Okay, Bruno, regarding the empathy, how do you define empathy? Do I need to feel the same feelings of the other party, for instance, to excel and master empathy, or the matter is not like this?
You don't have to feel the same, but you need to understand what the other person is feeling. You need to be intelligent about that specific emotion that the others have. It doesn't mean that you need to exactly change your emotion and say, okay, now I am. No, but you need to understand it, and you need to leave space for that. And it's looking at things from that specific perspective in time as well of that person.
That's fine. I think Alexandra needs to add something here.
Yeah, I actually wanted to, because when we talk about empathy and how people perceive it, sometimes you can actually feel the same, or at least some amount of what people are feeling. Sometimes you do not feel it, but you understand it because you've been in a similar situation, or you can imagine yourself. Sometimes you can't. And the last part, what that Bruno said, was important. Even if you don't understand it, you have to value it, to show people that you value that they have this feeling, even if you don't understand it, but you still create a safe place for them and the space for them to experience it. If they want to share, they might share. If they don't want to share, they still are valued and they still are seen with this feeling, even if you don't understand it. So it's a lot of different aspects, and for every situation, for every set of people in this situation, it's very different, but listening is definitely one of the most important things there.
That is amazing. Yes, sure. Go ahead, Nadia.
Can I just add?
Yes.
Excellent contribution, and also in answering one of the questions, what is the concept of empathy in management context? One bridge that I like to use to always understand what to apply when. So empathy is trying to understand what someone feels, right? Sympathy is feeling with them. So you decide to feel with them. And compassion is you understand what they feel, you decide to feel with them, and you help them. And someone who has high levels of empathy has to be very careful, because when you have too much empathy, especially in project management, for example, you are going to feel overwhelmed, and then you're going to confuse compassion, sympathy, overgive, and you're going to run on empty. You cannot sell oranges that you don't have, or give oranges that you don't have. So it is not necessarily to become strategic about it, but to understand the differences between empathy, sympathy, and compassion. Empathy is understanding, sympathy is feeling, compassion is actually helping, right? And you can't do all the three things at the same time always.
Okay, that is amazing. I think now you talk about the importance of keeping the balance while you are dealing with the empathy, while you are dealing with the people, especially in an industry like project management, while you are facing and encountering challenges on every day, and maybe many during even the day.
Yeah.
Yes, that's great. Alexandra, since you are concentrating more in conflict resolution and the negotiation as well, what do you think the role of emotional intelligence in conflict resolution and the negotiation?
For a lot of students who come to me, they would like what Bruno said. They would have loved it. It's like connection is about empathy, about listening. And they would immediately think one more thing, so that I would never have to face a conflict. And this is a sort of a very typical mistake people make all the time. Sorry? Yeah,
Something like impossible, yani, to not have a conflict.
it's completely impossible, but I understand the feeling of like when we paint this picture of trustworthy connection where we feel loved, well, maybe not loved, you don't always love your teammates, but at least seen and connected and trusted. You don't want to have conflicts, and conflicts and negotiations are two very high stress parts of our job. Even in communication, these are very high stress usually for people, even people with a good level of emotional cue. And like, why is it different for people who have emotional intelligence in these situations? Is that like, well, there's kind of, I would say, three parts to it, like three answers. The first one is you are better emotionally regulated yourself. So if you have some anger or resentment or frustration about a conflict, about the thing that leads to a conflict, you can deal with it better. There are a number of things that can be done about it, like how to apply practical tools to get you to the position where you can deal better with these emotions. But this is one of the questions people usually ask, like how to deal better with my emotions, because I feel that I am very stressed in these situations. This is difficult. So this is where EQ comes in, and definitely high EQ, easier it gets for you to be in these stressful situations with your emotions. The other part is the emotions of another person. Like if we had a conflict, there is usually again, this is kind of like, it goes on and on, in different directions, like this is because of that and this is because of that. So obviously a lot of conflicts happen because a lot of conflicts escalate, not happen, but escalate because of heightened emotions. And the one part is to deal with your emotions, and another one is to see that emotions another person is dealing with is not a threat to you. And this requires quite a level of emotional intelligence. The one I dare say not many project managers grew up with. So we have to catch up during the adult years. Unfortunately, this is the cards we dealt with. So basically, you have to deal not to deal with the emotions of another person, even though sometimes being, for example, in a higher position or being in a position where you care about the communication more than another person, you are able to put more resources. Sometimes you actually have to deal like what can I do or say to calm this person down, to get through to them through their emotions. Can I do that? Can I go to the negotiations even though they are very frustrated? And the third part is that what led to this? Because as I said, a lot of conflicts escalate and a lot of negotiations get more difficult because of emotions. But if you are perceiving emotions, if you understand that you're talking to human beings, if you plan and if you see and listen in the moment, you can catch it before it gets too hot for you. Like I can see that you're getting a little frustrated, for example, and like, this is my cue to stop, right?
Oh, yeah, yes, awesome.
So this is how it goes. Yeah.
That means if we can control our emotions and also understand what are the emotions of the other party which we are dealing with, that means we will not go for more and for many of the conflicts which we are encountering.
So eventually, yes, if you are good with that, you can diffuse a lot of conflicts before they even become a big deal. But in order to get there, you have to have, like, when a person starts doing that, there is inevitably the part where they have more conflicts than they had before. Like first you get more comfortable with them. You understand that this is not the end of the world, not the end of the relationship. You build up your EQ muscle, you might say, through conflict resolution, through negotiations, through tough conversations, as well as different situations, and then you can have less of them.
Okay. how is it important to raise the slogan of "It's not personal"?
Oh yeah, it's not personal. It's yeah, sure. But when emotions are heightened, everything is personal because everything is perceived as a threat. So the phrase itself doesn't help you. You need different, like, if you're talking to me, I cannot not take it personally if I feel threatened. So you have to have different instruments to deal with me at this point.
That is awesome. Before getting back to Nadia, I'd like to say thank you for everyone joined us till the moment. Mr. Muhammad Nabli, I believe that's from Egypt. Um, wow. Jeremiah from Philippines. Mariam, thank you so much for joining. Sometimes LinkedIn is giving only LinkedIn user without the name, so you can write your name as well. Engineer Muhammad Zuhair is telling that, so we can say that active listening is the key to success in emotional intelligence and building strong, high-performing teams. That's right, Bruno?
I think I would not say it's the key. I would say it's the foundational element.
Okay, that's fine.
There are many others, and some of them actually we might touch them later on. But it is absolutely the without that, communication will not work. Without communication, nothing else is going to work.
Awesome. Mr. Abdinasir Al-Qutbi, thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Frost is saying that how can conceptualize that? Is it on the ethics or in communication strategy? I don't know exactly.
I think it was a question from the beginning, but I did not understand the questions. Whether
yes, okay. I think if he can rephrase it again, that will be great. I believe that we can lead project with empathy. Am I right? Managing a project with empathy, we can do so. The project management professionals who are very practical and going, from one challenge to another, can manage projects with empathy. That's it.
Well, when you start a project, you start a feasibility study, right? To see whether
Yes.
the project is feasible. And then you write a project initiation document. And a core element is stakeholders. So if you don't understand your stakeholders, you're not applying empathy. So it's actually, I think, something that project managers do by default without labeling it. You can't successfully manage a project if you don't understand the people you are working with and the people who have an interest and influence and stake in the project outcomes.
That's amazing. Nadia, most of our work actually, while we are working with our clients to satisfy the clients, and if we need to broaden the circle more, we will go for the stakeholders of the project. What do you think, or how do you think the AI or emotional intelligence can contribute to the stakeholders management or engagement and satisfaction as well?
So one of my bread and butter at NATO was stakeholder engagement, right? Managing different committees, high-level military committees, English, Nadia, military committees. Maybe I need to start working with military again to articulate better. Military committee, political committees, defense planning, ambassadors, and so on. Because information technology was often seen as an afterthought at the end of the supply chain. Because of cyber and hybrid warfare, it then became the foundation, the nervous system. So we had to have a seat at the political table. And a lot of the stakeholders at that time didn't necessarily appreciate information technology as the nervous system. And this is where stakeholder engagement came in. When you talk about when you talk about project management, it is actions and it is people relationships, right? So how does emotional intelligence play a role? First, any project without stakeholder engagement planning is doomed to failure. You need to understand who's on your side, who doesn't care, who will care, who is of influence, who is your ally, who is your enemy that you need as an ally. So you understand how you manage your energy in terms of resources and time and energy you're going to invest. Right? Some people like just to receive emails to keep updated. Some people don't care, but you need them to care. Some people care a lot, but they don't have necessarily influence on the project. So you need to understand all this. And it starts with understanding emotional self-awareness yourself. What does it mean? If you're someone, for example, who has low levels of emotional self-awareness, you may come across as very angry most of the time because you don't notice how the way you are perhaps passionate or under stress because of your project has an impact on your stakeholders. Now, this is an issue because if you don't understand this, then people are going to have their defense mechanism up and they're going to either make your life more difficult or lose interest, right? Then you have to have interpersonal relationship skills, which is another EQ marker. You have to understand someone's decision-making style. I'm, for example, quite intuitive. I like statistics, but I also value more the intuition, the more the human side. So if you just throw numbers at me, you will lose me. Other stakeholders, they value numbers more than anything. If you only throw feelings at them or how this may look without any hard data, you're going to lose them. So you have to understand, and this is where people take it personal, but it is actually not personal. It's just they have a very different way of decision making. And emotional intelligence helps you gain that leadership edge when you step out of perception. Perception is how we see the world. So we have no empathy because we see the world as we are, and into perspective, into someone else's map of the world. And that's how you move things forward. You don't make it about you, but you make it about the other person. And that requires ego debt, which is another podcast topic, right? Because I think ego is healthy, but how do you manage your ego?
I do remember one class in the university about narcissism. It's advantages and disadvantages as well.
I think every single human being has narcissistic tendencies. We just don't like to admit it, right? Every human being is self-centric. Just people have different levels of self-centric, right? And I think narcissism is a whole different topic. But some people are more selfish than others. Doesn't mean that they're necessarily narcissistic. But if you don't understand, if you don't first understand your own emotions and your bias, and then step out of that and really be able to see someone else's map of the world, that's where you gain influence. That's where you can unlock a project or an obstacle simply by putting your own bias and assumption aside and trying to understand. This is what I did at NATO with no matter where they came from, whether it was military, high level. Often it was not even the high level people who made the decision. You have to know who has the power. And people, they always try to suck up at the highest level, but they are listening to their proteges, their informant, and they're not at the highest level. So you have to understand where the real power of decision lies. And you have to build relationships, not when you need something, but on a general basis. Because people, like if I didn't talk to you, Sameh, for like 1 year, and then I come, hey, Sameh, I need this from you. If you're really kind and you want to be polite and you don't want to disappoint me, you will say, okay.
I will.
But that's not necessarily.
Remember.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily right.
Don't worry.
I ignored you, and sometimes it happens. Sometimes I reach out to people I haven't reached out for them, and then I feel guilty. But I'm very honest about it. Hey, I'm sorry I didn't reach out, but I need help. I don't turn around on it. But usually, if you build the relationships, what happens then? If you really build relationships, not on title or function. Right? Really, this is why at that level they lobby a lot. They have a lot of receptions. They have a lot of dinners. It's not just to, have a nice time. It's to build those personal relationships, because it's those personal relationships that manage crises, avoid escalations, and help projects come to succession. And this is where emotional intelligence comes in. You have to understand the people you work with, the impact, and how to step out of your perception and into perspective. So this is how I would describe it. And if I need help from you, Sameh, I will just, I'm Dutch, so I will say what I think.
Don't hesitate.
And every single person on the podcast, I was like, okay, we know how to use Sameh now.
I will take from the discussion and the main points Nadia mentioned right now, and I will go to, I will ask Bruno. When we are talking about decision making, I remember that one of our guests in previous episode, he mentioned in some research, people said that around 30,000 or 35,000 of decision every one of us mostly take every day on daily basis, starting from which shirt I will wear today, what meal I will take on lunch, and so on. So many decisions. But we will go in project management, since the decisions is one of the key traits, decision making process, one of the key success factors, in my opinion, actually, for the great project managers. How emotional intelligence affects the decision making process?
It affects it a lot. Absolutely a lot. And personally, I think the best way to illustrate this is to use an example. You know me, I like that. So imagine that Sameh are leading a project that's behind schedule. So you're late, of course. We all have been there. Okay.
I'm so.
So you need to get the approval to extend the timeline, and clearly you know that your senior stakeholders they do not want it. They just say no, keep pushing, go, make it happen. I want speed. Okay. And that happens that when at that time, when at the same time you look at your team, you see that they are exhausted and they are starting to lose engagement. Okay. When you think about your client, you know that clearly they want everything perfectly done, on target, on time, and on cost. We know it. Okay. Now, since it is not possible anymore to deliver accordingly to the initial plan, you assume that your client would prefer to have a perfect product with a little delay instead of a broken product on time. But you don't know it. You assume it, which we all know it's not a good thing to do in project management. We don't want to assume. Now, if you lack emotional intelligence, you basically would ignore your team status. You would avoid the difficult conversations, both the one with your senior stakeholders, both the one with the client. And what probably you would do, it is to follow what the senior stakeholders want, which is push harder, make it happen. That's a decision that on the surface, theoretically, it makes senior stakeholders and the client happy. Right. But we all know that it's guaranteed not to bring the expected result. And I think everyone that is with us tonight in the session, they know, if they are project managers, they know it, that's not going to work. We all have been there. Now, on the other hand, how this would change when we would apply an emotional intelligent approach. So you are exactly the same situation, but what do you do this time instead? Well, first, you should check with yourself. It's entering into these self-awareness aspects that Nadia mentioned. You would ask questions like, am I just trying to avoid conflict? Or what would the customer really say? I see that the team is exhausted, but what is really disturbing them? What is preventing them to progress? What is making them losing engagement? And when you ask those questions, you enter into this, self-awareness, emotional balance, you touch empathy, conflict management, teamwork. These are all elements of emotional intelligence. So what do you do next? Well, then this is when you decide to talk openly to your team and to listen to them, listen to understand. And after that, you will be in a position to have that difficult conversation with your stakeholder and potentially agree on a way forward. Not the ideal one, but a really realistic one. And then this is when you can approach your client to have another difficult conversation. And if during one of those conversations, one of them is going to keep, they keep repeating, no, keep pushing, no extension, you need to make it happen. That's their decision and you have to deal with it. But being emotionally intelligent will help you to stay composed, to avoid an emotional reaction, which is not going to be helpful in any case. You stay responsible and trying to find a solution without damaging those relationships. So what you could say is, I hear you, I understand your concerns, but here is what is at risk if we push the team. Here is the impact, here is what the future looks like if we keep pushing. Then you could say, we have identified the 3 possible options, and here they are, all of them with their pros and cons. and we would like to agree on a way forward. Not the ideal solution, but a feasible solution that we can commit on and deliver. And that difficult conversation, it's much, much better to have it right now instead of just saying, yeah, keep pushing. And then you come back a couple of months later with bigger delays, bigger problems, and I don't know, half of the team burned out. So this is how emotional intelligence can help you to create these, to take good, valid decisions. Yes.
While you are in the marketplace, and I'm sure that you are interacting with many of the project management professionals, what is the percentage you see in the marketplace from those professionals mature enough to deal in such a way up to now?
I don't have a percentage to share, but it's definitely a limited amount. Personally, I think when the example that I made with an emotional intelligent project manager is the beginning of what we could describe a great project manager.
Wow. Okay.
Not a good one, a great one. It's not the only element, but it's definitely one of the elements that we need to have.
That's fine. Thank you so much, Bruno. Yes, sure. Yes, go ahead.
I love interrupting, as you can see, and I especially love interrupting Bruno.
Go ahead. We are waiting for you.
There is one more aspect I would like to throw in when we talk about decision making with or without emotional intelligence. A lot of our decisions are based on emotions, or fed off emotions, and it becomes even more difficult to separate one from another when we talk about this unpleasant part of our communication, such as manipulation. This is like I'm going to dangle this word. I love it. I love talking about it. And one of the things that I see, you asked about percentage, and one of the things that I see almost 9 out of 10 times when a manager comes to me, whether a project manager or a product, never mind, just a manager of something, is that when we all have our values, the things that are important for us, our careers, our projects, our goals, etc., if we are not emotionally intelligent about what is going on around us, we can be easily manipulated using these values. It's a skill, but it is acquired easy through repetition. You can have the skill of saying no when someone keeps bugging you, you need to do this, you need to do this. It becomes so much harder to do the same if they instead come to you and say, Sameh, I wouldn't bother you if I didn't, but I know that you're such a great guy and you have so many resources. If you cannot help me, that's absolutely fine. But if you can, that would make you a hero in my eyes. And here you're hooked. You want to be a hero. You were put on a pedestal, and it's very difficult to get around that and see actually if that's what benefits you and the relationship in general, because sometimes again people manipulate because of fear of getting rejected. Honest ask. So again, emotional intelligence. One more lesson.
Okay.
That's why very few people like me, because I don't. I had to learn this.
I'm not manipulating anyone.
She's raising a very, very important point, not only for project management, but in general in the age of AI when it comes to scams. Criminals and scammers are scamming people because of their emotions. And if you don't teach people at the workplace and our kids at home and ourselves to feel rooted and grounded in who they are, to know how to be assertive, to be discerning, to be kind but not nice, and to not use fear as a mechanism to get people to do something, then that's how you will reduce the business risk. And even in project, because especially when we look in the MENA region, is 69% higher risk for social engineering attacks because of its blooming economy, right? Meaning that they are manipulating emotions of people, and people are very generous. When I went to Saudi Arabia, they were very, very generous, wanting to help. It's part of the culture. That is a risk. And you're not going to tell people to stop being kind. You need to think about these things, and how are you going to build a culture that is also resilient and reduces the cracks where criminals can get in, right? So it is very, very important what she raised in teaching people to be kind, but to be discerning, to be able to not need validation. I always say this, not everyone likes it. I said, only seek validation from the one who created you. That's it. You will not have many friends, but your life will be at peace.
You excited a very important point, Nadia. I remember that I had a chat with one of my clients, and we were discussing that from time to time he faces challenges with the team regarding deadlines, maybe material delivery or something, something got delayed from time to time, and to please the client and the key stakeholders, he would start actually to say, instead of 2 weeks, 3-4 days, and we are going to resolve one time by one time by one time, and so on. I told him that you will lose the credibility, and you will lose the image after many times of repeating that. How it relates, Nadia, to emotional intelligence?
People need to feel. We grow up labeling emotions as positive and negative, right? It starts as children. When children are angry or tantrums, we say bad boy, bad girl. So we grow up valuing positive emotions instead of negative emotions. We need to learn to feel our negative emotion without judgment. When you deliver difficult news, hold space. Let them be angry. They don't have to harm. Anger is suppressed emotion, right? Healthy anger is saying, this is not okay, having boundaries. And you talk about it, but you don't have all these triggers coming up. So we live in a time where people need to learn how to feel their feelings. It's not a personal issue anymore. Its emotions are also a business risk, because if you are unable to feel all of it, you need to process that. It's a biology, and then you can have, okay, we are facing this problem. How do we fix it? How do we move forward? Because I saw this also, in my work, in my career, people would be afraid to tell senior decision makers the truth. Now,
Yes.
I remember I had a very high-level boss who didn't always like me, but when he needed reality check, he would call me in his office because he knew my Dutch filter would just say what is the reality. Because especially at that high level, they don't have the insights, because people are either putting them on a pedestal, they are afraid of their discipline. Maybe the culture shows that fear will be punished. It's not psychological safety. So if you don't talk about these things, and if you don't understand what culture you want to build that still respects your country culture, right? Your when we look at the culture map, the power distance, you can still have cultural frameworks in place that respect that. You need to have a mechanism in place where people can feel safe to feel their emotions, so they are less vulnerable to manipulation. And not only manipulation from the workplace, but from scammers and criminals.
Very, very important and very critical, and to be considered actually by anyone maybe kind or feels that he is mastering the emotional intelligence by doing so and so from time to time with the key stakeholders of the project.
If you think about it, someone said that they rather be stuck in an elevator in a crisis with someone they don't like, but they trust, right?
Wow,
You don't have to like everyone. I mean, exactly. We are so caught up on being like, you don't really. I trust someone who I don't have a close relationship, but I know that they have the capacity and the backbone to get through a crisis. That's the person. I don't want to be the person who is always kind and nice, and just because, right?
We will be safe.
They don't have the backbone. So you have to have emotional intelligence yourself. You have to be strong in who you are and lead with humanity. Kindness is not necessarily always saying the nicest thing and to make people feel comfortable. Not at all. You have to. Kindness for me is remembering that everyone is a human and everyone has a story, and you need to treat people with respect, not as numbers. That is for me kindness. But treating with respect can also be hard conversation, difficult. I know how you feel now, but this is not the time. I need you to do this so we can achieve that because of the situation. Now let's go. There's no time for being sad or frustrated. The time will come. That may seem harsh, but if you don't do that, things can escalate even further.
That's right. That is right.
I actually have a story. If I'm too much, just just stop me. But this is like a very relevant story. Because I once had a boss, and I was working in a startup, so a lot of things are very hectical, and obviously a lot of things went wrong for like a couple of months I worked there. There was a number of issues we didn't agree on. I didn't sign up on. So basically, I was coming each time, and I was like, "Hey, this is what happened. I don't like it. Let's talk it through." At the end of this, like the second month, he gathered all the managers. There were like, it was a startup, so it was not a lot of managers. As still, he gathered everyone who was reporting to him directly, and he said, "You know what? We're gonna change things. Like, I don't like the talks that I have with Alex, like on a daily basis. I don't like them. But at least I can trust that if there is a problem, either with us or with the company, she will come to me." So
I know exactly what is the situation.
Yes. So I want you all to come to me, and I will like you less, but we will make more money.
Why to add I will like you less? I don't know.
He was quite like he had this self-reflection good enough to recognize that he was a people pleaser, and some people around them were kind of people pleasers as well. So I'm not
very critical point actually to be considered by the project management professional. Engineer Zohair was saying that in the chat. Just to confirm, is it correct, Bruno? Is it correct to say that empathy has 3 levels: feeling what others feel, feeling with them, and acting based on their emotions? Is it right? Is it correct?
I think this is what Nadia expressed before. These are the three different things. Yeah, more than levels.
That is great. And he continue probably just one of the keys as when you are a leader who actively listen, it doesn't automatically mean you can build high performing team if the members don't have the right qualities to make that team perform well.
Yeah, I think we are going into the direction that I mentioned before when I said it's a foundational element. That it's not the only one. It's definitely necessary, and it's incredibly important. And it is something that unfortunately too many of us are not doing very often.
Yes.
But that's not enough.
Yes, that is great. Alex, we will direct a talk right now to anyone watching us and who he is working or she is working in the project management field, and they need to develop their skills in emotional intelligence under the umbrella of project management. What tips and the tricks they can start to develop and master those skills?
I think that about the set of skills that is important, Nadia already briefly touched on that in a general strategic matter. I will actually give tips and tricks. So the number of things that is helping my students, and it's done if they do it daily or at least regularly, is quite simple actually. So the first one is you try to you get comfortable with your own emotions. This is the first one. How can you do this? Very, very simple. Well, they're not so simple when you start doing them and uncover the not so nice truth about yourself. Think about how many emotions can you how many emotions can you name? Do you know a number of emotions? Just go and because there is for each type of feeling, there is a number of things you can call them, like anger, frustration, a little bit, very different shades of it. And you need the spectrum in order to get a better hold of yourself. I'm sorry, my cat is very emotional right now.
How would she label? How would you label her now? What emotions is she feeling?
I think she's very frustrated. She doesn't get my attention. So like,
One of the emotions you were mentioning right now, frustration.
yeah. And it makes me a little bit uncomfortable. Yes, but I'll manage. So basically, yeah. So get an understanding of what are the emotions, what are different shades of it, and try to address and apply it in the situation where you have some kind of feeling, because like this is one of the things you feel. We tend to say, at least for now, it's good already. We tend to say, yeah, you can hear that, right?
Yes, proceed to quiet.
Yeah, so we tend to say I'm uncomfortable, but if you can dig deeper, this is what raises your emotional intelligence in like recognizing what is actually going on with you in this situation, what is going on in your body, how does anger feel, how frustration feels, how sadness feel, because like if you lost a deal, you will be sad, you lost something. So that's a very valid feeling. And to understand that if you are highly motivated about your job, you will have a lot of feelings about your job, and that is completely okay. That doesn't make you like a liability at work or something. I'm very sorry about this. And also the next step is to try to see the same thing going on with others. And this is a lot about how sometimes it's about guessing. Like, if I go to the client and tell them about the deadline, would they be upset? Would they be sad? Would they be frustrated? And try not to spiral too much, right? Because if a client is upset, it's obviously something you have to deal with. But still, like the most important part is trying to recognize. And then basically at the same time, so just I'm listing the things you can do simultaneously, is starting to use the language in your work, in your communication. And this gives you a very good idea of what works and what doesn't in your corporate environment with the people you're surrounded with. If I'm in one culture, corporate or nationality wise, etc., I would be able to say, hey, I'm disappointed, I'm upset, like I'm feeling very anxious right now, etc. In other, like in a blood corporate somewhere, that would be a liability. So I would need to use other words. I would need to, like, if I come to some executives and, hey, are you sad because that client, that will not go well for me. I will need to find different words. But eventually, if you keep on insisting doing this as a small step, like using first in a small risk environment, like not a huge project got rejected, but just, I didn't have the best breakfast I could, etc., etc. If you build this connection with understanding, with showing that, again, feelings are valid and we can use this as a language, so that not only improves your connection, but also improves your emotional intelligence and the emotional intelligence of those around you. So this is what I would start with, like just very basic.
Alex, while you were talking right now, I felt that the consciousness, while you are dealing with other, if you are conscious about the relations, the emotions for you, for yourself and others, I think it will go easily and smoothly.
Yeah, definitely. The consciousness is one of the most important parts of the emotional intelligence, rather than just empathy, because yes, empathy is a lot about feeling, and emotional intelligence is about being intelligent with your emotions. So like using them as a resource, not controlling them, but managing them and feeling them at the same time when you need to. So yeah.
Yes, okay. Bruno, is there any connection between emotional intelligence and the innovation in project settings, or they are very, very far and away from each other?
Well, no, I think they are not absolutely not very far, and do you? Can I ask you, Sameh? Do you have kids?
Yes, I have.
So, do they ask questions?
All
are
the
they
time.
curious? Yes, of course they are, right? And
Sure.
this is this is the point. This is where innovation happens. It's that mindset, that curiosity. And when we are curious, we ask questions. And how can we get to the point of having this curiosity, triggering those questions that in the end will generate new ideas? And if we think about what potentially emotional intelligence has to do with it, as I said, I think there is a lot, and I think that we should consider two aspects, which Alexandra briefly touched. One of them is personal, is this curiosity, this capacity to challenge yourself, to look at things from a different perspective. It is deeply rooted in self-awareness, which is the foundational element of emotional intelligence. When you know yourself, you realize how much you know versus how much you don't know. And this gap, this is where, with the right mindset, with the growth mindset, the curiosity happens. So this is one of the elements, but it's not enough, because there is another one, which is related to the environment around us. If we take the four of us, for example, let's say that we are all high in self-awareness, we have a growth mindset, we are very curious, like your kids. We love to, challenge the status quo, think out of the box. We would be great innovators. But what if we work in an organization, and I saw before some of the comments that are potentially related to that type of organization. Let's say we work in an organization where questions are not welcomed, where people are not allowed to have an opinion different than the one of the big boss. A place where the answer is always, but this will not work here, or no, we have always done it that way. So how do you bring the two things together? And so in order to make the environment around us work, we need to go back to what we discussed roughly an hour ago, 45 minutes ago. And it's the idea of using emotional intelligence to create this safe space, this healthy environment, as I like to call it, where people with the right mindset, with the right curiosity, they can ask questions, challenge the status quo, innovate, make mistakes, learn from the mistakes without being, without getting finger pointed. And they can then continue to grow. So these are the two aspects that are necessary, and definitely they are both very deeply connected or related to emotional intelligence.
I like too much the way actually you connect and relate between both of them, since we are talking about emotional intelligence, empathy, active listening, and how it will affect actually the curiosity and allowing and keeping the space very safe for any question, whatever what is the question for all of the team members. Nadia, Alex, we're talking right now about emotional intelligence and how to develop for ourselves as a project leaders or project managers, but how to enforce this one with some techniques for the team itself, how to enforce our team with the required tools and techniques to master and to enhance their emotional intelligence skills.
I think first to have a general way of thinking about understanding when you are in perception mode, you see the world as you are based on your bias, and how do you shift in perspective mode, which is not static, it's always moving. So you have to train yourself to do that. Because people who have low levels of emotional self-awareness, it's very difficult to move out of perception, right? I am right. I don't understand what the issue is. They only see life work through their perception, not perspective what's going on. And moving from perception to perspective is an uncomfortable process. It comes with emotional discomfort. That's why I like to say, learn to become comfortable being uncomfortable, right? When we grow, when change happens to us, disruption happens within us. So how do we teach people to become comfortable with their discomfort? Then second, I don't think it's necessarily enforcing, but more influencing. And this is where you have to model. How do we teach children? And I'm not comparing project managers with children, but I'm using the core of human behavioral psychology. Is
Yes.
people are feel more incentivized when they don't have to do something when it comes from them. And if you are a leader that is saying something but modeling a very different behavior, then they are, why should I care? Why should I do it? They don't do it. And when we talk about, there are many, many tools, but what I will say is first understand your challenge. If your challenge is having constructive conflict and not how do you say the opposite of constructive? Like really
Structure.
violent
Yeah.
conflict, then
Okay.
you need to understand what is your relationship with anger, what is your relationship with confrontation, how do you manage emotions, how do you feel the emotions, and how do you manage conversation, because anger is not a bad thing. Anger is bad when you harm someone, right? When you blame, when you project, when you try to do an action that is harmful. Anger from a healthy place, say, I get where you're coming from, but for me, this is not okay because I cannot accept A, B, C, and D, right? You are expressing your need. Everyone has needs. So this is one challenge. The other challenge may, if you are tired or you are almost burned out, how are you managing your energy, not only your time? When you have meeting after meeting after meeting, especially in project management or especially in highly technical environment, people are very cerebral, very intellectual. So feeling your feelings is something like woo-woo. I have to rationalize, I have to make a project plan for how am I going to feel my feelings, which is not going to work. You just need
Sometimes, sometimes the people will not understand what you are saying,
Yes, exactly. So your mind is execution. When you feel fear, your mind will amplify fear. When you feel anxiety, your mind will amplify anxiety. You need to learn how to drop in your heart. And if you're not open-minded, this will be a very strange, counterintuitive concept. But when you learn how to take breaks and just, like for example, focus your attention into your heart and just feel the fear, feel the anxiety, feel the frustration. Don't suppress it. You're going to be so tight. Emotion is energy in motion. It's going to flow through you. This is the meaning you give to situations, right? The other element of emotions is understanding our body and understanding feeling, which is different than emotion. I'm not going to go into it, but if you had a bad night of sleep or if you didn't have enough food, it also, your brain is
your
going
mode
into
of
survival mode and is communicating to your body that you don't have enough energy. So your main organs are going to be used to keep you in survival mode. So you're going to feel a certain way. And if you're going to rationalize how you feel, then you're going to go, oh, I'm depressed. Oh, this is not working. Oh, nothing is working out for me, etc. So you have to understand, you have to know yourself really, really well and develop a level of emotional self-awareness so you can feel what you need to feel and then use your brain to have an action. Sometimes if you just feel, the problem goes away because we forget everyone is sensitive to you. When we meet someone, we not only meet their parents, we pick up on their vibes, right? And if you have like very negative energy or anger, you are going to repel people.
Yes.
Right? It's very unspoken of, but how your state of being directly or indirectly influences any situation. And if you're too much in your head and not having the brain heart coherence, which is maybe a very strange concept, or you're not uncomfortable, right? Especially I grew up in a culture where we did not talk about emotions. It was very unheard of. But it's a challenge because we live in an era where people can't handle that much stress continuously because there's so much change and uncertainty. So we need to rethink human potential and leadership in the age of AI with emotional intelligence or EQ.
Amazing, really. There is an important question in the chat box. Mahmoud Badris is saying that what if I understand the people I work with, but there is a conflict of interest between their goals and the overall goal of the project? Bruno, what do you think?
Well, that's something that happens very frequently, unfortunately. What could I say? Definitely, I can say that it is not an ideal situation.
Yes.
And it would be better to try to put some clarity into it, to make it visible. But very frequently, when you are in that situation, it's something that you perceive, but nobody will openly share that they have a different agenda. So in front of all of us, in front of the official steering committee, the answer will be, of course, I trust, I believe, I trust this team, I believe in the project. But then behind the scene, there is a different agenda. It's important to capture those things and then to try to find ways to deal with that person. And I would start having a conversation and trying to bring it to what exactly is, bringing you to that. Now, sometimes I think it's important to underline what Nadia said in one of the first answers. Sometimes this person with a different agenda is too high level, and you cannot reach that person. So then in that case, it's important to find a trusted person in their team so that you can have a conversation. And sometimes just building that connection, it is going later on, that person that you connected with is going to speak with their manager, that is going to speak with their manager, that is going to speak with this senior stakeholder, and they will say, oh, actually, you know what, Bruno is a good guy. Let him drive the project. And so sometimes that is a way, but it's not something that you solve in like that in a couple of chats in 5 minutes.
It needs a lot of discussion and good relationship with the people. I think planning even for the objectives of the people and aligning them actually with the objectives of the project.
Or at least clarify the situation. Sometimes you cannot align, but at least agree to disagree and agree that anyway, you are all working for the same organization. And if the organization is trying to achieve something, it's not about your personal objective or my personal target. It is about what the organization wants. And we are here because they pay us to deliver something.
I like it. Alex,
yes, I have something to add.
I'm coming. If we need to get a step ahead and check what are the future trends of AI and evolving role in the project management field.
As it was said on another podcast I've been last week, it was like, we got an hour without mentioning this word AI, like an hour, the whole hour. So, but that's been enough. Let's talk about it. So I'm going to say a cheesy thing. In a world of AI, we need to get in touch with our human side because this is the only advantage that we have. For now and for time being, and I'm guessing that's going to be a long time being, the general course is set by humans. And AI can be very powerful, very imaginative and resourceful tool we need to learn how to use. But most of the time, and I hope it will be for a long time, it will be a tool. And our advantage, like your idea in the age of AI, like your main goal is not to be a tool, but to be a human being, more valuable in a place of setting the course, getting a strategy, and surrounding yourself with the powerful instruments that can help you do that. And of course, the one thing that humans have and the AI doesn't is a set of soft skills. And I can go on and on about it, but I won't.
Yes. I see. I don't want to keep it long for you and for the listeners as well. So I can take advice in 1 minute from everyone. Since we are getting now into the AI era, what is the advice for mastering the emotional intelligence and benefiting from the emotional intelligence skills in the project management field? Nadia.
What I would say is that get excited about the potential of artificial intelligence.
Yes.
Understand it's not another tool, but another brain. And at the level that is being developed, it can really, some even say, match or overtake human intelligence. I don't want to go there because I'm not qualified to talk about that. But I will say what will set you apart as a project leader, as an organization, is your culture, is your critical thinking, is your ability to build and maintain trust, right? And your ability to be human, your authentic intelligence. And it is not one or the other, it is together. How are we going to maximize human potential? And it requires a complete way of thinking how we manage projects and how we lead people. There's a lot of hype and investments in AI, right? Without necessarily thinking about the consequences on both polarity side and what does it mean for human potential. So be excited about AI and how it can help you advance your project and do what it does best. Use AI for what it's meant to, but be human, become uncomfortable, get in touch with your emotions. Yes, it sounds weird, but do it. You will become the leader that the world needs and your project needs for sure.
It was touching. Thanks, Nadia. Bruno.
I would like to say something that I see as an opportunity. It's a development opportunity that we all have, but it is an opportunity. So it's not a gift. It requires effort. And something, AI is going to completely change our lives, wherever we are, whatever we do. But there is definitely one thing that, in my opinion, is going to be completely wiped out by AI, and it is the concept of average. What I mean with it, for our parents, our grandparents, being average, being standard was absolutely a valid option. It doesn't mean that it was the best option, but it was a valid option.
That's right.
Even today, for many people around us, being average, having a standard life, an average life, it's what they are aiming for. And there is nothing wrong with it. But AI is going to change this drastically, because the more it is, being embedded in everything we do, this being average is going to be completely replaced by AI. AI will be faster, better, 24/7, no vacation, no complaints, no workers' council, no unions, no coffee breaks, no nothing. And it will be something that will be adopted. So where do I see the opportunity for everyone, whatever level you are, whatever role you have? It is the opportunity to elevate yourself, to get better every day, help others grow with you, do stuff like this one, be in places where you learn every day something new. And emotional intelligence is a perfect set of skills to learn, develop, and improve. And that set of skills will definitely help you to become better in whatever role you have and to stay relevant, even with the AI impacting us.
Thank you so much. Alex.
I still get the chance to talk about soft skills.
You have 1 minute more.
Very briefly, I do believe that developing, like the most important part is that, especially with AI, knowledge is not the goal anymore. Skills are. So like, because you can get knowledge very easy, like yes, you need to be able to determine if it's a valuable knowledge or some SEO garbage, but still, knowledge is very easy to obtain, and skills is something that has, like, you need effort to put a lot of effort into them. And the soft skills are the ones that will get you in this unique position where you still can be the person making decisions surrounded by AI and not be replaced by it. So yes, and the soft skills like building relationship and communications and of course emotional intelligence and agility and ability to learn. Yes, yes. So basically, all of these things you need, and better start developing them now rather than when AI is knocking at your door. Basically, it's already is.
That is great. Much clear. At the end, I would like to thank you so much for your time and for your attendance and your great presence today. I'd like also to encourage you to complete, responding to many questions in the chat box. I couldn't take all of them. Actually, I will continue responding on LinkedIn and the Facebook. But really, I appreciate your presence today.
I have one more thing to show, because
Yes,
the
sure.
Global Project Management Forum, we have this WhatsApp group. And when I first saw the duck, I had no idea what is this duck. And then I learned the story behind the duck, yes, from Stuart, who says it's not about the duck, but it's about the eggs, right? And I got this duck, it's all the way in Brussels, so I have it with me everywhere I go for luck. But this is the power of Global Project Management Forum, right? It happened in Riyadh, that brought us together, that continues the conversation. So I also wanna thank them, and I can't wait. I hope I see you before, but I can't wait to come next year again and collect more ducks.
Thank you so much, Wallahi, for this, Mark, and I'm very excited to see you again in other events, even before the GBMF and also at the GBMF next year, inshallah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank everyone has attended this session and be with us up to this moment. Your presence, energy, curiosity are what makes these episodes meaningful. Until next time, stay curious, stay connected, and remember, the conversation doesn't end here. Bye-bye. See you.